the thingy. I don't even know what to call that. I'm so out of this today. Anyway, tonight uh, episode of T3 Connects is with Dakota from the Strong Collectors podcast, and I want to say thank you to Toy Depot Whittier in Southern California for sponsoring this episode and every future episode ongoing. So anyway, Dakota, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thank you. I love coming on and chatting.
Yeah, instead of me chatting in your comments on your videos,
All right.
we can see each other face to face.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I always appreciate that. It makes me happy to see names I know in the chat. So,
yeah, because you never know who's going to be in the chat.
all right.
Okay, so this is a little bit different of a podcast than I did before, because last time I had you on under the Overgrown Third Graders podcast. This is more of a connecting with somebody. Doesn't have to be in the toy community; it can be pretty much anybody. But we're both in that community, so that's why I asked you to come on. And like I said, it's a little different. So my first question for you is: take me back to your childhood of toy collecting, or I guess you wouldn't be collecting toys then, but
Hmm.
getting toys.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, the first time like I can remember like playing with like cool action figures was like at my grandma's. My uncle had all of the old He-Man and Thundercats action figures. So
Hmm.
those were some of the first ones I was playing with. And then as far as like my own, I I think I must have watched some Power Rangers or something, but like Power Rangers was my favorite action figures to collect, just like the Megazords. I never got the big ones. I always wanted the big ones, but I was just getting like the 6-inch Megazords. So anytime I got like birthday money or anything like that, I'd go and pick out the coolest one. And then eventually, I'm staying at my uncle's house right now, visiting them. And this uncle actually, different uncle than that had the He-Man and Thundercats, but this uncle took me to the store and was like, "Oh, it's your birthday. Like, pick out a couple things." And I picked out two Marvel Legends, and like I remember him being like, "Oh, okay. Like, are you sure you want to like use your like birthday gift on this?" And I was like, "Yeah, these are like superheroes. I know. I think they were kind of like Mr. Fantastic and Colossus, so it wasn't like Captain America, Batman, Superman, like known characters to the average Joe, but like as a kid, I was, loved all the superheroes and stuff. So I knew who they were. I was like, yeah, I'm for sure. I want these. And then that snowballed into like, I was getting all the Marvel Legends I could after that. And then I don't think I like called it collecting until like the Build-A-Figures started coming out. And I was like, okay, I actually have to have like a full wave to complete my Sentinel and my Apocalypse and Annihilate or no, not Annihilus, Onslaught. Those were the three that like were the ones that I completed as a kid, and then that was kind of like my collection. And then I kind of stopped during college and then got back into it later. But yeah,
Do you remember your first action figure when you were a kid?
the first Marvel Legends that like was Mr. Fantastic and Colossus. I remember like really young um, Christmas getting I think they were called shifters or something like that, where it was like a transformer of Wolverine and Sabretooth. I
Okay.
think I had Hulk too. Um, and I remember because like I think my parents must have got like a beat up package on Spider-Man or something. And like in the note from Santa, it said like Rudolph must have stepped on it or something like that. So
Awesome. That's hilarious. So, so those were your first
mhm.
action figures as a child. Okay. So as you were growing up, as you said, like you went into, I guess, collecting until a certain point, I think that even for me, like I got to a certain point where I
Mhm.
stopped comic books, I stopped trading cards, I stopped collecting pretty much anything, but I didn't stop collecting movies because it's just something you can physically put in a player and watch.
Mhm.
So tell me, like out of college, this is when you got back into collecting like hardcore, or is it just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna pick things up here and there, and then kind of spiral
Mhm.
from there?
It kind of so like after because I probably stopped getting action figures around like freshman year of high school. I'd have to look back and see what the years were, but it was like the Annihilus wave for Hasbro, like early Hasbro, was kind of the last wave I was getting as a kid. I never finished that build a figure until I got back into it, but like I had Blob and I had a few figures from the Brood Queen build a figure wave. So whatever year that was kind of when I was like out of action figures, and then I was mostly just getting comic books. Um, and like those were kind of like half price bookstore pickups. It wasn't like I was going and getting my weekly issue or anything like that, but still like getting a substantial amount of comic books. Um, and then it wasn't until my second youngest sister was graduating high school. I'd kept all my Marvel Legend figures because I was like, someday I want to give these to my kids and then play with
Hmm.
them. But with Toy Biz, like they were pretty much all Toy Biz or like early Hasbro. With those Toy Biz figures, it's if you don't move them around and let them sit, like they kind of the joints freeze up and they're
Right.
brittle, so they'll snap. So every like year or two, I would pull them all out, move them around, make sure like I wasn't just going to let them sit for 10 years and then give them to my kid just to break them. So like that was it was during COVID, so like we were watching my sister graduate on like the live stream, and I had all the action figures out. I was moving them around, and then somehow I just like found on Facebook that there was a group of Marvel Legend collectors, and I posted in there, and then somebody was like, "Oh, are you selling any of these or whatever?" I was like, "I didn't even consider selling them," and then kind of saw that more people were out there, and then there was new figures made. So I was like, okay, like I think I could, sell a few of these to then buy some more, finish that Annihilus figure that I never quite finished, and then Jordan, the co-host of Strong Collectors, we had kind of like we drifted apart in high school and college, and then kind of rekindled post college. And I was like showing them all to him because me and him were like playing with them as kids. So I was like, oh, I got out all the old toys. Like, remember these? And then I went and visited him in Des Moines, and there was an action figure shop, and they had the Sauron build a figure, and it was like $80 or something, and that was what it was going for on eBay. And I was like, I always really
Yeah.
liked that character, so I bought that, and I was like, that was kind of like our green light to be like, oh, like we're spending money on this, we're getting back into it, here we go. So that was the snowball that sent us cascading into collecting again, kind of like in the COVID times.
Yeah. All it took was a Sauron. That's all it took.
Yep.
Dang. So yeah. So tell me about your friendship with Jordan. Like, when did that start?
So that was fourth grade. So I was going
Oh,
to the Christian school in Iowa for I went from second grade to fourth grade, and then Jordan started going in fourth grade. So we only had 1 year of overlap during grade school, but then it was kind of a smaller class, and it was kind of more of like a farm kid type of vibe for the school. So then when Jordan came, I was like, oh, somebody here actually knows about superheroes. And I like put him through all the questions of like, oh, what does Galactus do? What does Magneto do? Who's this character? Who would win in this fight? And he knew all the answers. I was like, oh, you're my friend now. Like, we got to hang out, and got together and realized we were collecting the same kind of toys. And he would let me borrow some of his. I'd go home and break them. And so, and then,
go home and break them.
yeah. So we were close
Uh,
in like middle school, but then high school, I moved to Wisconsin. Still just like stayed in touch a little bit, maybe saw him once a year or something. And then during college, I was doing internships in Texas. So I was driving from Wisconsin to Texas, and he lived in Kansas City. So it was a good halfway point for me to stop and chat with him. And then, yeah, it just kind of like built back up again, and like we never left off. So he's definitely a lifelong friend, and he'll stay that way.
heck yeah, that's cool. It's good to hear like how like the history of how you guys grew up basically together.
Yeah.
um,
And we only lived like it wasn't that far. It was probably like a half mile between us. We were on the same street. So I'd always call him and be like, hey, I'm heading out. Like, you can meet me halfway. And then it always worked out that I would meet him on his front doorstep. And he's like, oh, sorry. My mom wanted me to do dishes. Anything he could do to get out of walking that half mile.
he's like, I'm gonna make Dakota walk get to the whole place of where we're going. That's funny.
Yep.
So you've known Jordan for a long time, so that's pretty cool. I can't say that I have any friends from when I was growing up that collect anything like this because all my friends have like moved away.
Hmm.
And then one friend that I grew up with, him and we came up in the, I guess, the baseball card boom, and I was into comics already, so we collected baseball cards. But like as you get older, you kind of, like you said, you drift apart. Like we go our separate ways as we get older. You know, he moved away. I moved away to Oregon, moved back to California. He was already long gone. Where he was, don't remember. And then I randomly, uh, I moved to Sacramento. Randomly, like ran into him, and I was like, "What the heck?" So we're like, "What the heck? What are you doing here?" I was like, "Oh, I moved here." He's like, "Oh, I live here." I was like, "What?" I was like, "That's crazy." So we kind of like hung out a little bit because I worked probably like 8 hours a week, so it was very hard for me to do anything. But on like Sunday was like literally my only day off, and I had uh, my son was like 8 months old at the time, so it was just like I'm doing all the stuff that you do as a husband and a father and all that stuff. So
Right.
that was pretty much like the gist of it. We hung out here and there, had him over for dinner. But yeah, none of my friends back then left that I know of now. I have couldn't tell you now. But
Yeah.
now, as I've gotten older, as an adult, and started this whole thing, started with Instagram. Actually, I think it all started off when I broke my ankle and I was laid up at home. And my son used to watch the unboxings,
Mm.
toy unboxings. And
Hmm.
then I just was sitting at home and I was watching YouTube, and then that's how it kind of like went. I got into this whole thing. I was like, oh, I could do the same thing.
Yeah.
And here we are. Here we are
Right.
as
Yeah.
adults.
I love it.
So,
I mean, it's a fun hobby, and
mhm,
if it makes you happy, and it's not hurting anybody, it's a good time, and it connects people. Like I wouldn't have ever met you if I didn't start collecting, and you started
yep,
collecting, and now we get to chat.
heck yeah. That's the cool thing about the internet, I guess.
Hmm.
We don't even have to be neighbors. We can be across the freaking world, and we can connect to this way. That's kind of like the reason why I want to do this type of podcast,
Hmm.
because there's all kinds of people. Like I have met a ton of people through this Instagram and YouTube community that have become really good close friends. So it's pretty fun. It's awesome. And like I said, the hobby. Does your wife like your hobby?
She's not really into it necessarily, but she's super supportive of it.
Okay.
Because we're traveling around right now, living in the bus that she built out. Like I
Right.
painted a few things and helped hold things in place while she built the entire thing out. And like as she was building it, she was like, "Oh, we need to make sure that there's like a shelf for you to display some action figures." So like out of the entire bus, I was like, "No, no, I don't want to take up space. Like use that for groceries or something." And she's like, "No, you're gonna have a display, like I can't have it while we're going down the rows, the figures would fall off,
Right.
but like when we go and we're like stationary somewhere, she's like, display your stuff, like that's something, like it's your hobby, you love it, you're going to have a spot for it." And then she's even now, like I just got like the Necronominous Mythic Legion wave in, so I've got more toys than I should in the bus. And she's like, "Well, I can like reorganize." She's like, "I'll reorganize like the stuff underneath here, and then you'll have another bin for more toys." And I'm like, "Stop giving me space for toys because I'm going to use it up until this whole bus is just toys." But yeah, she's super supportive of it, and it
That's
helps
cool.
too that like when I like up until we got in the bus, I was able to like fund all of my action figure collecting by selling action figures.
Right.
So like I would find Facebook lots and flip those, and like I would make money, and then the money that I made, I pretty much just spend on toys. But then I would also use some of that money to help build the bus too. So that definitely helped. And like, it wasn't like our personal finances were going down. It's just like I would spend extra time selling things, and then I would have money for my hobby. So that helped out a lot.
Yeah, that's the one thing about having this hobby is you can either hoard a bunch of stuff or you can sell off a bunch of stuff. Um, let's just say my wife does not like this, but I always say this is a better hobby than being like friends of mine that all they do is like drink. It's like,
Hmm.
you want me to spend money on plastic or do you want me to spend money on aluminum cans for beer or what, like
Right.
bottles or whatever? So she's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, she hates it, and I think she realized now that gotten back into this hobby. I guess it's a hobby
Mm-hmm.
that it keeps me out of trouble. I'm not saying I ever got in trouble, but it just keeps me at home most of the time. And when I just recently told her that I got, I think, approved for San Diego Comic Con and WonderCon, I was actually away working, and I found out, and I was like so excited. I screamed because I was like, I've tried this for 4 years and never
Yeah.
gotten like this far. It was crazy, and I was like, this is so awesome. So I finally told her that I was have this opportunity, and she's like, "How are you getting there? Do you need money for food? Where are you gonna stay?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna stay with my friend, and he's gonna drive, and all I need is money for food and maybe buy a few things." She's like, "Okay." I was just
That's
like,
awesome.
honestly, was not expecting her to be like, "Yeah, it's fine, go," because
Mm-hmm.
it's I don't know, it's a big deal for me, and I think she realized like I'm not gonna stop doing this,
Yeah.
but I have been selling stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
I think I kind of helped
Yeah.
persuade her a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I feel like at some point everybody's got to end up selling something, just because if we're not going to stop, I bought this much this year. If I continue that trend, eventually I'm going to be buried in these things. So something's
right.
got to make room for more things. And I don't know that I ever sell to keep up with the amount that I'm bringing in, but it slows the pace of the eventual avalanche.
True. Yeah, I've been hitting up. There's this place in my town called Bargain Bins. So they're open on Friday. They have two of them. There's one like 20 minutes away, and then they opened one up actually pretty close to where I live. So I will check their Facebook. Usually they post up on Thursday. I think it's usually the day before or Wednesday. And I'll kind of scour the photos and see if I can pick out things. And
Mm-hmm.
there's sometimes I miss things because I just can't make it. And then there's sometimes I don't see something in their photos. And I went 2 weeks ago, and I got this for $12
Oh wow,
unopened. Yeah,
that is a good $12.
yeah, unopened. And I was like, there's no way. How did I not see that? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just randomly, like, they just get random stuff. I have bought a majority of my NECA stuff from there,
Mm.
but I turn around. I don't collect NECA. I end up turning around and flipping it because
Okay.
I'm using that money for something I actually want.
There you go.
And I'm not like the scumbag, like I guess flipper, some people say, or scalper. I actually sell it for usually about $10 to $15 over retail,
Hmm.
or what it's going for in the like eBay market. I try to mark it down so I can
Yeah.
sell it faster than having
Right.
to hold on to something.
Yeah. No, we've done whole podcasts on how you know scalping doesn't really bother us, or like scalping, yes, but I think people over exaggerate scalping, and they think anybody selling anything is scalping, even if they're selling it for, if
Mhm.
you wanted to sell it for market price, that's fine. But I agree, I usually like to go just a little bit below it, so that it sells a little bit faster, and get your money quicker. But yeah, no problem with that for me here. If you go find it cheap and sell it for what it's worth to somebody else, it's you got lucky. Somebody else is going to get lucky somewhere. It all comes back around. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I consider scalpers that are people that buy up everything
mm-hmm.
that, and then they're turning it around and selling it for two, well, 3 or 4 times the amount. That to me is a
Mm-hmm.
scalper.
Yeah.
Not someone like, not saying you are, but someone that actually has a collection and opens it and is like displaying it or playing with it and then turn around like, oh, I don't need this anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and
Mm-hmm.
sell it to fund something else I need. That's exactly what you do, and that is actually there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Yeah.
It's
I
just
agree.
crazy how people consider what you would do as a scalper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think kind of the other thing we've talked about too is like with like convention exclusives and stuff like that. I mean, maybe you think differently too, but I think like when I go to Legion's Con and I get the like Ninian infantry that cost me $40 to get, but then I could sell it, or I was usually trading it, but trading it at like a $85 value, then people would be like, "Oh, scalper." and I guess Mythic Legions is a little different too because they're going to put that stuff on like the website later on down the road and stuff too. But
Right.
I think people forget about like I didn't just spend $40 to get it. Like I had to take myself clear over to New Jersey. I had to get into the convention. Like I had a table there, so it's like I bought my table to then. So it wasn't really $40. It was I probably spent more, much more than that. But yeah, it's I don't know. Sell your stuff, but yeah, I agree. If you go to like Walmart, and you just like take all the exclusives, and that's a little more shady to me. I think.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's the thing that I don't like. That's kind of like the Pokemon thing, like that. Like, eventually, Pokemon figured out how to kind of like stop it, like limit it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like everyone is running in and grabbing whatever they can to go turn around and to make a profit. But in return, people have gotten smart and are just not buying it because Pokemon
Right.
came out and said, "We're gonna print more. Don't worry, we're gonna have more out." So, and it's just
Yeah.
like good on Pokemon as a company to do that.
Right.
And it just blows my mind. Like, there's dudes our age standing in line to go buy up everything. And I'm like, dude, this is literally for, it's cool if you collect it. I get it. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
turning around just to go buy it and then sell it,
Yeah.
that's jacked.
Right. And I mean that makes sense. Like I'm glad that when companies do that, where they're like, oh, it's. I mean, obviously companies want their stuff to sell out fast, but if it's selling out that
Right.
fast, you can make more because if I don't know what Pokemon go for, but if I buy a pack for $10 and somebody's selling it for $100, Pokemon doesn't get that money. It's just whoever's buying it off the shelf is getting
Right.
the money. Pokemon would rather have that money in their pocket, so might as well
Yeah.
print some more of the thing that's selling hot. So it makes sense.
Yeah. And I think toy manufacturers have gotten, I wouldn't say all of them, but I think they
Mm-hmm.
understand like the supply and demand part of it. And they understand the third party and the eBay stuff where they limit the amount of the exclusives, which that I get. That
Mm-hmm.
should be limited. But when you say like a for a Funko, for example, makes a limited edition, say like Comic Con pop, and then years later they're reprinting it, or you're finding it at a Ross or
Mm-hmm.
some discount store. It just kind of like devalues whatever you went
Yeah.
to go spend your money on or go to a con. Just
Mm-hmm.
saying like what you're saying, like when I go buy stuff, people will message me on Instagram because I'll post it. Usually I find stuff, I don't post it the same day because I already know I'm gonna have a ton of people asking me, "Where'd you get it from? Can you get me one?" I usually
Mm-hmm.
post it a day or two later. I could
Mm-hmm.
be like, "Yeah, I got this like 2 days ago." Like they're probably gone by now, and I don't really, I guess, toy hunt as much because where I live, there just really isn't anything but retail,
Right.
so it's hard. So
Yeah.
everything's kind of online now. Um, yeah, it's the whole collecting game has gotten kind of crazy, and
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't know if you see this now because we both collect Marvel Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed since I would say probably 2020 or 2021 that the production runs for everything has for Marvel Legends has gotten smaller and smaller?
Yeah, and I think that was just kind of the inevitable. Like, I think you could see that coming just from like Hasbro's perspective of like everything was on sale. Like, I wouldn't buy anything at retail because everything
Right,
was going to go on sale. So when that's the case, obviously they're going to need to cut production because they don't want things going on sale. Because again, that's just taking money out of their pockets. They printed too much. They're going to produce less. And I don't think it's even swung nearly as hard as I thought it was going to, where it was like things were going to sell out really fast. Like some things are like Maximum Spider-Man and whatever, but there's still a good amount of like the Nemesis build a figure wave and things like that that have been on like the retail sites for a while still. Um, so I'm a little disappointed because I got to pay, retail for my figures. But at the same time, like when they're figures I really like, I don't mind spending retail because I want Hasbro to know, like, yes, I do want a Crystar figure for full price.
right.
Make more, please. So it it does, I don't get as many now because especially when they were all going on sale, I was like, $10. I don't really need the character, but $10 is I'll take him. So
Yeah,
I'm much more selective of getting actually what I want to get now.
yeah. I feel like that as the toy collecting has moved year by year. I think I don't know about you, but I know I have been seeing a lot less of people buying like a full wave and being very selective.
Hmm.
As for me, I have become that way, but I also am a completionist. So I have a real hard time, and I'm like, I really need to buy that, but I'm gonna try to wait it out until
Mm.
things aren't 24.99 or whatever. Because GameStop upcharged a dollar more now, 25.99 for a Marvel Legend, and I'm just like, okay, I can just wait. And then
Right.
there's those times where you wait, you can't find them, and you can't find them online anymore. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
dang it, I should have just bought it.
That's where, like, I mean, the Void Wave, even, I was shocked that, like, Power Princess, she was in that wave, I think, and she's super hard to find now, even because I was like, Kristar, I can probably wait. Nobody knows who that character is. He's so,
Right,
like, such a deep cut. And I really haven't seen a sale on him. Like, maybe there's like a random day where he goes down a few bucks, but like, I was expecting, like, oh, he's going to go for like 15, 10, like half price pretty easily, but he's stayed at retail. Same with pretty much the rest of that wave. Even, I mean, like Red Widow from the Zabu wave is, she's probably the only one that's like the exception to have a sale. But like Cable sold out
right,
and is gone. It's You're not really getting sales on even things that I would think would be deep cut that would become clearance items.
right. Yeah, because I know like cable was everyone wanted that cable. That thing
Mm-hmm.
sold out, and I think I only seen GameStop and Entertainment Earth restock it once ever.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I had three cables at one point, and then I ended up trading them off to friends that actually were like wanted them. I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you got like pick that up from me. We'll just trade straight up. I do have an extra Power Princess, and everyone's like, no one's gonna want that. And I was like, I don't know. I think a lot of people want this. We're gonna want
Yeah.
this. So yeah, she's what over 100, I think, still.
Yeah, that shocks me because I feel like a lot of Marvel Legends, like when I'm going through lots or like I see things on Facebook Marketplace to try to pick up now, and I'm like none of these are worth. Like you got trash, but like yeah, and then you have that random like she's modern too. Like usually you wouldn't want
Yeah,
things from the last few years. You'd want like older stuff, but yeah, she's pretty shocking.
yeah. I mean, how many people actually know of her besides being in that team? And I know like because I watch you guys' podcast pretty frequently, and a lot of the things with Marvel Legends, I wholly agree with you. There's still a lot of teams that still aren't done,
Hmm.
and that was one of the few teams I feel like they finished.
Yeah,
It's
they
like
cranked that out in like a
crazy to
year
me.
and it was done.
Yeah, no, just like you can crank that out, but you still don't have a full X Force. You don't have Feral
Hmm.
still. Like,
Right.
how hard is this? You know? I mean, I really would like them to reissue that Disney. I think it was a Disney Store exclusive, the Richter,
Hmm.
Cannonball, and Domino. I
Yeah.
missed out on that. I don't have a Richter. I have the other two, but that Domino is like what I remember from Rob
Hmm.
Liefeld.
Yeah.
So,
I think I got that pack and was because I was like, I don't know who, kind of like I do with most of my figures. Like, I don't know who Richter is, but it looks cool. And like Domino, not really exactly what I want, but like Cannonball looks cool. And then I got him. I was like, I don't know that I really need these. And I think I let them go kind of shortly after for, I mean, maybe trade them for like a build a figure or something like that, but maybe trade them for Mythic Legions. But yeah, now I'm kind of like, oh, I kind of do wish I had that Domino still. And she is kind of the like look for that character that I would go for, but oh well, maybe they'll put it back out again. But then it's interesting for the supply and demand of that, of because I'm sure there are probably a lot of people saying that they would like that set reissued either as singles or
mhm.
reissued as a three pack. But then like like is it does it the crowd saying that actually equate to whatever the production would have to be to put it out to be able to sell out? Because I think that's kind of a interesting thing that a lot of people don't think about is like I've heard Mythic Legions talk about it where they're like, these older characters that are really expensive, they want put out again. But then when they actually do, like, because Mythic Legions has All Stars and they put out those old figures that are more expensive and they're always the worst selling. Like, there's not as many people that want them because, there's a big chunk of people that already have them and there's a smaller chunk of new collectors that could buy them. But it doesn't really make sense to reissue those figures as much as some people think.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like that Professor Xavier set that came
Yep.
out, what, in 20, gosh, 15? Was it that late? Not long ago? I think it was. That reissued and it sold out. Like, I was surprised. I mean, I have it right here. I finally got it, and I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, oh, cool, now I have it. It's gonna sit in this box because I don't have nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people that missed out on that set. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping if they ever, which I know they will eventually, release a Feral, that they'll just say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, we're gonna announce a a reissue from the past that's gonna come out. It's gonna be limited quantities. It's gonna be on all your like Amazons and stuff like that." I don't know if there's some sort of like deal they had with Disney where they maybe not can't do that. I have no idea. So that's something that I wonder too.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of people want that 3 pack with Daredevil and stuff. But I think they would rather have that be
Mhm.
as like a single. Because I would love that too. I want a regular red Daredevil, but then I also would rather have that Elektra but red because that'd
Right.
be high on my list.
Yeah, especially with the show that's now out, and we're not
Mm-hmm.
getting the Born Again figure until like the fall or something like that,
Yeah, like November or
October.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, why do they do this? I
Right.
it's like if you're gonna have a show come out, like at least you should have put that up for pre-order in maybe
Mm-hmm.
January to have it come out in March. But I have a feeling why they did that, and that's they want to see how much of a demand there is for it. Because I feel like now I don't know about all these toy companies, but I feel like Hasbro now is doing that to only make as many as are pre-ordered, and then a little bit
Yeah.
extra when something breaks or whatever.
I mean, it depends because like with that, that's too close. Like it's already being made and probably close to shipping from the factory before it was announced because it takes them a year to make those figures, especially when
Yeah,
it's. I'm pretty sure he's got quite a bit of new tooling and stuff. So it's like they would have had to have made those figures already last year, and then which that's just where it seems weird to me that like if it was going to be like, oh, we don't have it ready yet, so we're going to wait and see like the demand, and then it's like, a year out, kind of like the Spider-Man 3 pack was, like that kind of makes sense. But then yeah, this like weird, like it's a long time from when the show ends, but it's also not when the show is happening. Why didn't you just make them a little bit sooner so that we got them like kind of towards the end of the show, or like, even if it was like the next month, not the 2 seasons away. Did we lost T3? Well, now it's my show, folks. What do we want to know? I know somebody asked about New Berlin, Wisconsin, and if I miss cheese. Cheese? Nah, not so much. All cheese was kind of the same to me. New Berlin, I don't know where that was. I was in Madison, Wisconsin, so you probably know, hopefully, where that is. Favorite Zack Snyder movie? I'd probably have to have a list of Zack Snyder movies in front of me because I don't actually know. Um, we'll see if T3 makes his way back in, but until then, I'll see if I can read through some of the comments from before. Let me scroll back up. Um, do I do Power Rangers anymore? No, I haven't gotten Power Rangers probably since before I even was getting Marvel Legends. I liked them as a kid. I still kind of do like the look of them. I was tempted by whatever that 5 pack was. Hey, welcome back to the show.
yeah. Dang internet, man. Tell ya,
Yeah.
freaking
No, I
weather's been
usually have that
terrible
problem.
here.
Yeah, that's why I'm in my uncle's office right now because when I'm out in the bus, well, it's also like a tree over us, so our Starlink is covered, and I think we're too close to the house that the house kind of blocks it. So yeah, I'm usually dropping, but I understand the struggle.
Yeah, I usually don't have this issue, but this storm that we just had this last like so this week and over the weekend, it's been like making our internet really bad, which is interesting because usually don't have that. It's cable internet, so I don't know. Weird situation. But anyway, um, besides the that question, So what are you looking for in the future as far as like the your podcast that you have going, which is very, very good. So if anybody has not subscribed to the Strong Collectors, please do. It's very fun to watch these two. Well, Jordan's not here, but it's always fun to watch you guys talk about Marvel Legends and Mythic Legions. I know nothing. I mean, I know what Mythic Legions are. It just isn't my, I guess, thing. But from my understanding, is the guys that did Mythic Legions are the ones that did Masters Universe
Hmm.
Classics.
Yep.
Because I
Yep.
remember seeing one of
DCUC and
the
Spawn.
yeah DCUC. I remember seeing a Mythic Legion. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it looked like Trapjaw, and I was like, dude, it looks like Masters Universe. That
Yeah.
was the first I've ever seen one.
Yeah, they do tribute figures for different He-Man characters. So like they've got He-Man and Skeletor. Those are like old and pretty expensive, and then they've got um, Moss Man and Stinkor, Buzz Off, Man at Arms. Yeah, they do. They usually do two a year that are kind of in the tribute to He-Man stuff.
That's pretty cool.
But then yeah, they did the He-Man line, which I actually collected as like another one of those like super young memories of the 2000X cartoon, getting those He-Man figures, and that was also from Four Horsemen. So I've been collecting Four Horsemen for pretty much my whole life and didn't even know it.
Dang, that's pretty cool. So, what do you see your future of collecting?
Mm, I mean, I think
Like, do you have an end point where you will stop?
I don't think so. I mean, I think if it ever like stops being fun or like too stressful to get stuff, but I don't know that I necessarily see that coming anytime soon. I think it's more just like keeping kind of like trying to like keep filtering things out is going to be kind of it'll like get harder and harder as like like right now I filter out what I'm like I don't really need that as much, and but then each time I do that it's like my collection is getting cooler and cooler of what I like. But I definitely think I started out with like Marvel Legends and DC Universe or Multiverse, and I was kind of like, I don't really know if I like the DC Multiverse so much anymore, and like pretty much like dropped that. Other than like getting a few a year, so we'll see what Mattel does. If they do something similar to Marvel Legends, I'll probably I don't know. I have to look at budgets and how much they cost and stuff, but I really want DC figures that look like my Marvel Legends. So if that happens, I don't know I don't know where that budget's coming from, but I'll probably have to get some of those. But otherwise, like I still get the Marvel Legends that I really like. Trying to be more selective, but every live stream there's something I think is really cool. So
Right.
trying to be selective with it, but still getting a decent amount of those. But then Mythic Legions is probably like the bulk of my budget goes to them, just because like on the scale of when I open a figure, DC Universe class or DC Universe multiverse stuff was always like I'd be like, oh cool, I want this as bad. I get him. I'm like, okay, I got him, and like that was always the feeling when I would open those. Marvel Legends, I'd open those. I'd be like, oh, I really wanted the Spider Man. This is like a really good Spider Man. I'm happy with this. It was what I expected. Mythic Legions, like every single time I open them, I'm like, this is better than I was expecting. So
Yeah.
the values, the like excitement factor, and just the creativity too, because I almost never take a Mythic Legion out of the box and put it on the shelf. It's like I'm doing the pop and swaps and making my own characters. And I was even thinking like when I get back to have my own collection space, like I want to do kind of my lore of Mythic Legions of like,
Yeah.
there's the actual stories of the bios of the characters. But I'm like, for me, the fun of it is like I'm going to get the character that they made, do a little bit of changing, and like here's my story for how this guy interacts with the rest of the world. So I've never really been much of an artist or like creative in that way of like painting or drawing. But like with them, I'm like I actually feel like I can take things apart, put them back together in a different cool way, and then it feels more like my creation. So it makes me like the figures
Right.
even more.
Yeah, that's something I will give them is you can literally mix and match any character, and that's probably the coolest thing
Mm-hmm.
that I've seen from Mythic Legion because there's not very many lines that you can do that with.
Right. because I remember like even when I was getting out of like collecting and stuff, there was like a younger kids line of Marvel mashups or something. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like meant for kids. But you could like take off Hulk's arm and put it on Spider Man and do those kind of mix and matches. And I was like, oh, that's like really cool, but it just looks a little
Right.
too kid to me. So then like growing up and like I saw these and I was like, oh, you can like actually do the mix and matches and it looks cool. Like that I was all in on that because I've been wanting to do that since I was younger. So that was really fun.
Yeah. I, I just I don't know like what is the average like because I know there's what different tiers of Mythic Legions. Like, what's the average cost for just like I guess a basic one?
Yeah, like your standard Mythic Legion is 50. The price is coming down on those though, because at show like if you went to like a convention and they were there, like Four Horsemen would sell their stuff a little bit cheaper, but they're bringing their prices up so that retailers can bring their prices down.
Hmm.
So like standard right now is 50. I think they're bringing it down to 45 or something like that, which is also crazy
Okay.
because like nobody else in the toy industry is lowering their prices and adding more value. Um, and like when you get a Mythic Legion, like it comes with soft goods and multiple heads, tons of hands, tons of weapons. So like right there, the value is pretty nuts. But then you can also go lower, get like the army builder type characters or Legion builders. They just have a little bit less paint, sometimes less accessories, and those are um, I think like $36 from retailers.
Okay.
So like $26 if you buy them directly from Four Horsemen. And then you've got like the bigger characters like the ogres and the horses and stuff like that that will get up to like 60, 75, $80 depending on what it is and how big it is. Um, but if you order it during the pre-order time, everything's cheaper. So that's usually what I try to do. As long as you're patient, you can get things a little less and then get a bunch of it all at once. And then I usually will pick up some extras if there's some from retailers that I was like, "Ooh, this is a really good one. I'm gonna need more for pop and swaps."
Yeah. I always wondered because I've looked them online and I felt like the prices were kind of all over the place because I
Mm.
was trying to compare like the uproar over the Maximum Spider-Man. Everyone's like, "Oh, $50, it's so expensive," and I was like, "What's a basic like Mythic Legions?" And like, I get Mythic Legions like have the cloth goods, more accessories, the paint apps are fantastic on those things. And I was like, I just wanted to see like what is the big difference, and I'm like, well, I kind of get why they charge so much because like there's a lot of craftsmanship in those.
Yeah,
Marvel Legends is just a comic book character
right,
with a paint job and it does whatever you can't really switch in like things around.
right.
What is your ultimate feeling about this Maximum line that they're going to be doing?
Um, I don't. I think it's just another line to me. Like it's not something that's like a must-have. Like I didn't get Spider-Man. Jordan did. Um, because for me it was like all those extra accessories and stuff. I'm probably not really going to use. Um, I think the Spider-Man like it looks like it moves amazingly. I they're going to put it out eventually in like a symbiote version or some other style of Spider-Man. So I'll probably pick
Mm-hmm.
that up when it's more closer to retail. Um, as far as like, because we're supposed to be having a rumored Maximum Hulk. That one scares me because I do want a Hulk, but if Hulk is regularly 40 or $44, now you add the maximum like price tag on top of that. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to spend $75 on a Hulk action figure. So it's going to depend on how it looks and what comes. But I think there are some characters I would consider spending $50 on, like a Daredevil I would think about, and a Punisher I would think about.
Oh yeah.
But at that price, I'm like nothing, no matter what they made, is going to be a for sure, just because $50 for a Marvel Legend is it's a lot. And when I'm trying to like I'm collecting other lines and stuff, like do I want to spend that much there where I could spend it over here and feel like
Right.
I, it does like I see the value in it for sure. Like you're getting all those hands and stuff. Most of that's going to end up in a bag or in a bin, and then not really. all that necessary. Like I really love my Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. The like he's got his extra hands and stuff, but that's really all I need. I've got my custom web lines. I've got plenty of them to use with different Spider-Mans. We'll see. If they made something else, I'd look at it. I'd give it a fair chance, but it's always going to be starting at a no, and I'd have to get convinced to like, oh yeah, this is the version I would need for this character.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are on that same like at that same like level. Once they see it in hand and have it in hand, that will change a decision. Because I think that's with most anything that you see go up for pre-order. Like for instance, DC Multiverse. I am like I wouldn't say I'm like a huge hater of the McFarlane's
Mm-hmm.
like DC Multiverse line. There's a lot of them I don't like, and there's some that I do like.
Yeah.
And I like he'll put out for instance, that Riddler that they just announced from Batman Forever.
Mm-hmm.
That head looks atrocious, like bad, just
Yeah.
so bad. But that picture is just a picture. Like when it comes out, and you see in person, it may change. Like
Mm-hmm.
when they did that first Riddler, the promo photos didn't make do it any justice. Then when I seen it in hand, I'm like, oh, it still looks the same. It looks doesn't look that great. But I
Yeah.
still bought it because I wanted the whole set, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
Batman movie that I enjoyed the most because I was what I think in high school, and that was the Batman that I gravitated towards more than the Keaton two movies, and plus it was just
Yeah.
like campy and it reminded me of like the comic book a little bit more than
Yeah.
the other ones. I think that's why a lot of people like Batman Forever. But yeah, that Riddler head, it looks so bad, and I'm like, no matter what that when that comes out, it's still gonna look that bad.
Yeah. And that's like, I mean, I don't mind McFarlane's stuff like with DC because like I like having a line that I like to see and not have to collect. Because I still love like looking at all the reveals and everything. And like I said, I'll pick up a few here and there. So the problem is like all the things I want to pick up are like the exclusives or platinums of like
Right.
I really liked that Walmart Asbat, the black and gold, because I got the red and the blue Asbats
Mhm.
that came out last year, and I was like, oh, I would get this new bat, and it was like sold out immediately. I was like, of course, but yeah, it's like, well, I guess maybe I'll get another Mythic Legion to trade for that eventually, but if I never get it, it's not the end of the world. But it is one of those few that I would have loved to have picked up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of McFarlane. It's crazy because I didn't really. I think when that first came out, because that line came out during COVID, and I think the very first one that I saw was Superman because it was the animated Superman, and I saw it at a Walgreens of all places. I never saw those at Target. And then I saw I think Green Lantern, not Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and I wanted that because I liked the show. And I kept looking at it, and I was like, it doesn't really look like him. I'm probably just gonna pass. Now he's harder than hell to find, and he's
Right.
expensive. I was just like,
Yep.
damn it.
Yeah. And I think he's made like really big jumps in how good his stuff has been. Like even when he started doing the soft goods cape, it was kind of like, good try, but that doesn't look very good. And then like
Right.
two Batmans later, it was like, that's a good cape. Like
Yep.
you're approaching Mafex level with just a retail standard figure. So he's done good stuff.
So you excited for the Mattel era now, or
I'm
I
I'm
mean,
very like I said, I'm very interested. I want to see what they do. I'm a little nervous that they're going to do really well. It's kind of like that. Like I hope they do awesome because I want to get DC figures and like have them be my mind's eye. Because like I really liked the DC UC stuff. Like that was exactly what I pictured when I saw like any of those characters. I was like, that is the exact look I want for that character. The problem with those was I didn't love the articulation. So like they
hmm,
look really good just standing on a shelf, but I can't get them posed up like I can with my Marvel Legends. So it's like if they can do that, but with Marvel Legends style articulation, and that was the same with like DC UC can't really pose that well. McFarlane's can't really pose that well. They're very good
true.
standing up, and but if you want them in dynamic poses, is probably not going to look the best. It can happen, but it's they're not my favorite for it. So if Mattel can do that, like I said, I'm a little worried about my budget, but I would definitely be excited to be getting some DC figures.
Yeah, I'm contemplating because I have a table full of McFarlane ready for this weekend,
Hmm.
and then I've had a couple conversations with a couple of friends, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to sell all these now because what happens if we get into this whole Mattel era? Because I don't know how long. I think it's 10 years with them. I think it's what they said. I
Oh,
could be
maybe
wrong.
I didn't hear.
Because eventually people are going to want these things like this McFarlane stuff, and it's
Hmm.
going to become harder and harder to find. And then obviously it becomes more expensive. So I'm
Right.
looking at that. I'm looking at that aspect, and then I'm like, okay, but do I really want to hold on to these for say like 5 more years? Is it going to
Right.
really be worth it? So
Hmm.
I was just like, nope, pull the band-aid off, just sell them. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, make the money now.
Yeah. I mean, and if it's stuff that you're not really like, it's stuff you got and you're like, yeah, I like it, but I don't really. I want the space for other stuff. Whether you get the Mattel stuff or not, then that makes sense. I think with some people, like I feel like they felt like betrayed when he lost the license. Like it's not like Todd's choice. Like Todd lost the license
Right.
because Mattel's got more money, so he didn't. He would have loved to have kept it, I'm sure. But then people are like, "Oh man, now my collection's ruined or whatever." It's like your collection is still there. Like if you really love your figures, keep loving your figures. But if you need to make room for figures you're going to love more, then make the room and clear space. But yeah, I think a lot of people were like rage selling. So it's like
Right.
I would pump the brakes because you don't want to sell that stuff off. And like you said, if you want to get that stuff back in 5 years, you might be having to pay extra for it. So don't make any
Right, especially
crazy emotional
especially for the ones
decisions.
that are
But
hard to find. Yeah, like the
right.
Asbat, that platinum one was literally super hard for me to find,
Mm-hmm.
and I eventually ended up finding it. I think I had a friend actually send me one, and I was like, "Oh, what do you want?" Like, "Oh no, you've been trying to find it. It's fine." And I was like, I feel weird. Like, let me just give you something, and I think I ended up sending him either cash or something in trade because it just didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I go into a GameStop randomly and then just sitting there, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Nice.
I was like, that seems to always happen all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like the Mattel thing, I feel like they're gonna. I think they'll be okay because I feel like over time, for example, like the WWE stuff has gotten much better over the years.
Mm-hmm.
The face scans have gotten better, not 100% accurate still, but a lot better. So I feel like Mattel is going to hopefully use that technology that they do with that with this line, especially with
Yeah.
movie related figures.
Yeah.
And the
Because
articulation for an elite is actually not that bad. It's pretty good. I don't collect wrestling. I collect CM Punk. That's pretty much it.
okay.
But yeah, I'm like I'm not too worried about it, but also I'm thinking like, are they going to go the 6 inch route or are they going to stick with the 7 inch route? That's still up to debate. Like no one knows that answer yet.
True. Yeah. I mean, I would be much more tempted at the 6 inch.
Right, me
But like I
too.
said, even at 7 inches, I would still probably pick and choose. I'm sure they're gonna do movie figures, like you said, but I've never like even with Marvel figures, I'm not that interested in movie figures. Um, so like I would still stick towards comic stuff. Um, and usually there's like you said, the movie stuff is much more important that you have the face looking like the face you're trying to have it look like. But with a comic book character, it's like you can be like, oh, it's from this artist and that artist, kind of a mashup of the two. You squint your eyes, it looks like, and that's fine with me
Right.
for comic stuff. It doesn't have to be exactly off the page.
Yeah, and that's the good thing about the comics versus the movie stuff because the movie stuff you kind of have to know their likeness, which I think McFarlane only, not him, but his company in general, I think they only really nailed uh, Black Adam, The Rock. That's the only one movie figure I feel like they nailed the best.
Yeah, true. And it's I don't know. I'm not sure if Rock had anything to do with it. He's like, you got to get this right. And he was there. He's like, nah, my nose isn't right. Nah, you got to get my eyes a little better.
Yeah, from my understanding, is he wouldn't allow them to release his figure unless it was as accurate as possible. And I was like, I could
Oh
see
wow.
that actually being true,
Yeah, I
honestly.
see that too.
So yeah, just like of course, The Rock has to be that
Uh-huh.
guy.
Right.
So going forward with, I guess, the McFarlane, because they had, so I think there's a lot of like confusion. So their license actually ends December 31st of this year.
Hmm.
So that's when it ends, and then they have until I believe it's June something, midway. I think it's midway through June is when that's it. They're done.
Hmm.
Mattel doesn't automatically just start putting stuff out. It's in the August or September or something is their first like figures. I don't know if it's, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know like what they're going to put out, but I believe it's later in the summer is when, or early fall is their first relaunch of, I don't know if they're going to call it multiverse either.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't think they've announced it yet. So we literally have a year and a half of him pumping out stuff. And I feel like
Hmm.
already we're starting to see him pump out things a lot faster than he
Yeah.
has in the past few years.
True. Do you know if like so when it switches over, is it like September is like street date for Mattel, or is that like solicitation for Mattel?
I'm assuming solicitation will probably start. So, say like Street Day is like late September. I'm
Hmm.
sure it'll be around July. I would
Okay.
assume July or August,
Okay.
because I'm assuming they're already like planning out what they're gonna do. That
Right.
may they
Yeah,
would
that makes
have to
sense.
at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but it's kind of like from my understanding through talking to a few people, and I'm like, okay, so they're not like, it would make no sense for McFarlane's era pretty much to end and the Mattel be like, okay, well here we go, we're just going right at it. Like you
Right.
have to give those
Yeah.
collectors or
Clear them off the shelf.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the last probably few waves are probably going to be either low print counts or
Hmm.
they're going to be clearance really fast.
Yeah.
I would assume. But I think they're going to do, as they get closer and closer, there's going to be a smaller print run of everything
Hmm.
or more
Yeah.
exclusives.
I'm excited because this is like the first time I've ever been collecting during like a big switch up like this.
Hmm.
Because when we got back in, it was I think right after Todd had got the line, and then kind of like I said, when I was collecting as a kid, like it went from Toy Biz to Hasbro, but that was I just like walked in and I was like, oh, these look a little different than they used to, and like I had no idea what I was doing, so I was just like kept getting my Marvel figures, but like now actually seeing like I'm gonna get to watch like the last of Todd's line and the start of Mattel's line, so I'm kind of excited for that.
Yeah, I think everyone's just thinking of it negatively because of, I mean, I don't really know why. Like, McFarlane's line wasn't perfect.
Hmm.
Like, my biggest gripe is, like you said, they don't stand. Most of them don't
Right.
stand at all. I am so, well, you and I, as Marvel Legend collectors, we're kind of like, I wouldn't say babied, but we're spoiled because we
Right.
have no pins, and now we have
Hmm.
McFarlane's a pin. I'm like, if you could just go pinless, I would probably like them a lot more.
Hmm.
But the standing issue still is an issue. There's certain things with like the hips and the legs,
Yeah.
or just certain things like he oversizes figures a lot, and
Sure.
like this, the biggest gripe is the Batmobile that came out, and the scale for the Batman and the Batmobile just made no sense. It was just bad.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like
I mean, I think because even when we talked to him, we were talking to him about like hey, like the ankle joints being like ball jointed is a little weird, and like it doesn't really like Marvel Legends is like easy to, it's just a rock pivot, whatever. It's all kind of like within the ankle and it looks good. So we're like, why do you do ball joints? And he was like, oh, like if you look at your leg, and he was like doing lunges and stuff and showing us, which like like thinking about it, it makes sense. But then like translating to a figure, I was like, actually, kind of looks better when it's not a ball joint. Like even though you like your ankle kind of looks like a ball joint, I was like,
right.
I'd rather have it this other way. And then I would, if we can get him back on, I'd love to ask why he's stuck with diapers for the entire time he's had the line, because I would think that that would be something like you got cool like capes and like you've added all these different things, like your joints are looking better, like still work to do, but it's improved. Why did you not like pick up a Mafex or even a Marvel Legend or any of the other things? Nobody has diapers like that. Why did you stick with that? I'd
Right.
love to know why.
Yeah, that's a good question. I want to know that too because man, that I feel like all the Jokers all look the same with that diaper. So
Mm-hmm.
bad.
And some
Jeez.
characters can pull it off, but some just really like it just is like glaringly bad. Like I think
Oh
when
yeah.
there's like different colors, like if it's like Superman and like there's the red trunks with the blue, it's like you can kind of pull that off. But when it's like Flash and it's just like red with a red diaper and like that one doesn't look so good.
Well, it's like ambush bug.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just like no one. I mean, I've never even heard of that character, and
Right. Me
I've
neither.
read and collected comics for a long time,
Yep.
and I'm like, that just looks bad. Like, look at
Yeah.
that. It stands out. So
Right.
bad. Yeah. I think the one thing that I think a lot of people got upset. Well, one, the switch over is like a big shock, and a lot of people were chasing after McFarlane because the platinum thing. And Mattel, I mean, Mattel does chases, but they don't do it like that. And I guarantee they're not going to do a chase like that and call it platinum. There's just no way because that's McFarlane's thing. So how do you
Yeah.
see like them going that route with the chase?
I kind of a hot take, and even though like it personally annoys me because I always want the chases, it seems like
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like them because then there actually is like it feels like it keeps some aspect of like action figure hunting alive because like
Right,
if I want Maximum Spider-Man, like I just make sure I'm there that day, I pre-order him and I'm gonna have him. Like there's not really too much stress in getting that figure, and like maybe if I was collecting like mezcos or something trying to get him on the first drop or whatever, there'd be a little bit more of that like oh no, what am I actually going to get it or not? And it's like with the platinum, like I actually am going to have to probably take a significant amount of time and try to track that down or do something and like do a trades, or I'm going to get lucky and see it at a convention somewhere, and like I got to find that right price because even like it's not like I'm just going to like go out to eBay, be like, oh yep, purchase, I hunted.
right,
It's like no, I want to hunt for a price that I'm happy paying. I want to like feel like I found something cool, and like it's just that like hunt that like isn't really there with like pre-orders and online
right.
shopping and stuff like that now. Like if I was still having to go to the store and like find all my characters, that'd be one thing. I want to be able to get them, but that's kind of where I'm like I kind of do like having a few, like not, I don't want everything to be that hard, but like a character here, a character there that I actually have to take time and look for. So I wouldn't mind if Mattel was that way, but I think that's got to probably come later. I would think you would want your first stuff, just give it to everybody that wants it,
Right.
build the lineup, and then be like, all right, now here's our convention exclusive, and it's only offered at the convention. It's not going to be on retail later. It's you actually have to be here. Stuff like that would be okay with me.
Do you think they'll stick with the build a figure? Like I think they called it. Did they call it build a figure back then?
They called it collect to connect,
That's right. Collect.
or
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
collect and connect. Um, I I would think so, just because I feel like that's a good way to like sell an entire wave,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise it's if they're just like standalone characters, you're only going to buy what you want to buy, and then I really don't have any incentive to buy that character that I don't really care about. But if my build a figure is somebody like I want to build Darkseid, I'm going to go get that random character that I don't want, but I want his leg, so
Right.
then I can have my Darkseid. I think it's a good way to sell figures. But even like Jordan and I were just talking about that with Marvel Legends, is Marvel Legends going to switch over to just selling deluxes? I think you totally can, but I think in order to get those deep cut characters like my Crystar, like I loved Crystar, it was my favorite figure of the year, got me to read more comics. We never would have got Crystar, I don't think, if he wasn't in a build a figure wave. Like maybe he would have been in a San Diego Comic Con exclusive at some point down the road or something like that, kind of like Death's Head was.
Right.
But I think in order to have like a deep cast of characters, you've got to have those build a figures that sell full waves, and you don't end up with peg warmers.
Yeah, and I think the Hasbro team knew that that wave, if they had it in retail, probably wasn't going to sell very well.
Hmm.
I mean, given like, yeah, I had to. I think I ordered all of mine from Entertainment Earth, and then there was one that sold out. Um, it might have been Cable. No, I got Cable from Entertainment Earth. Oh, Kazar or Kazar, like however you say his name. He was the one I couldn't get, and I had to get him through, I think Amazon, or I was visiting my friend in LA, and I found a shop down there, and that was the way I had to get him. So I think like they realize like, okay, not always people, all these characters, everyone's gonna know. So this is the best way to do it is to do it through a fan channel. And I
Yeah.
feel like Hasbro as a company and the Marvel Legends side of it, that's kind of what they've been doing. Like it's been fan channel
Yep.
for the most part. Even that X-Men line, that's not if they I swear, and correct me if I'm wrong, they did say it was going to be retail too, and then it switched from that fan stream to after Dan I think went on Twitter was like, oh no, it's going to be fan channel only, and I was like, wait, what? I
Yeah.
was excited for an X-Men line to be in a Target, and I was like, well, this is going to be impossible to get because my GameStop doesn't doesn't get all of them. They get a select few, and then I have to go hunt down on the internet to try to find them.
Yeah. And like I can see that's probably how it's gonna go because like we talked about a while ago of like them cutting back on production stuff. It's like I think it makes more sense to cut back to just the fan channel because collectors are going to go to their entertainment earths and their nerdzoics to get their figures that they want, and rather than putting them out in Target where they're much more like I think they have to be much faster to turn things over in retail stores
Right,
like Walmart and Target before, because there's been times where like they put them out and then like next week they're putting them on clearance already, and
right.
to Hasbro that doesn't look good. But if you put them in your fan channel warehouse, they're going to want to make their money on it, so they're not going to go sending it to clearance right away. So I think that's probably better for the longevity of the line to have more fan channel stuff. But then it also seems like it's more of a like maybe it's not good for your longevity because people aren't walking down the store aisles being like, "Oh yeah, that thing. Let me get back into collecting because I see it right here in front of me."
Right.
Because if you're not collecting Marvel Legends or if you're not collecting action figures, you're never going to go to Big Bad Toy Store or anywhere like that to peruse what's available.
Mhm.
So yeah, I both ways.
Yeah, I mean, like in the stores right now, like we have the Spider-Man. I don't even know what you want to call the animated wave and non-animated
Yeah.
wave. So you
Right.
have that, like, because Hasbro knows that Spider-Man sells, which is true.
Yep.
Spider-Man sells. You have a Venom in it, it's going to sell. You have a Carnage in it, it's going to sell. Spider-Man's going to sell. Just like McFarlane says about Batman, why he makes so many Batmans, because they sell. It's Batman.
Hmm.
Do all of them sell? I wouldn't say all of them sell really well, but they
Right.
do sell. Spider Man's the same way. And now Iron Man and Captain America have become that way because of the movies. I
Yep.
started like the Secret Wars wave. I think I saw Iron Man sit the most out of all. Like I think he was the only one that sat here.
I've never actually seen any of the. I mean, I haven't been going to retail stores as much, but I've never seen any of the Secret Wars in person.
Yeah, and I ordered my case from Entertainment Earth. It's still in the case. Have never opened it, and then I just was like, I'm gonna wait until GameStop gets them or Walmart because eventually I figured they'd get them. My Target got them, but then they were like, it was just the Beyonder, Titanium, Iron Man. That's the only three they ever got.
Mm.
And I have a guy that will help me out. He's like, yeah, we don't have Wolverine, Captain America, and the Spider Man. We don't have any on order, but these ones are always on order. I'm like, what the hell? So I just waited until GameStop got them all recently, Captain America, Wolverine, Spider Man, because those are the ones I wanted anyway. I mean, yeah, I want
Yep.
the whole wave again because I want to open them. So I just bought them that way. But I was
Yep.
like, dang, I had to wait a long time for these. And that Secret Wars line, that was one of the lines I remember as a kid that I had from back in the day. So for me,
Yep.
it was a big nostalgia thing. Like I had to have them because I only have the
Yeah.
Spider Man from Secret Wars in the 80s. That's all I have now. Given it's not the same Spider Man, but um, I have him right. Wow, Spider Man's in my room, and I just knocked over all my guys. But like the cap, whoop, the cap, probably the best cap they've made.
Wow, that looks good.
I mean, the shield's cool. The whole like idea behind that's pretty dope.
Hmm. Like that makes me hope that Mattel does a really cool Superman, so that I can get him
Right.
that broken shield and Thor's hammer, and kind of
Hmm.
do like a recreation of the Avengers JLA cover.
Right. Yes. Yes. See, I like what you think.
Because like I never
Iconic.
really equate like Captain America with a broken shield, but like Superman holding Captain America's broken shield, now that's cool.
Heck yeah, that is cool. What else? I have Wolverine. Yeah, Wolverine. I mean, obviously, this is just a repaint from the X Men '97 one,
Hmm.
but the brown and yellow suit, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that you can get him in this crouching. This is the one thing I want to see in the Maximum line is one that can super articulate a Wolverine
Yeah.
to get him in those like real small crouching positions.
Hmm.
But overall, it's a pretty cool figure. I have the X Men '97 one. Yeah, I'm not opening it. That thing I could never find, and I think I got that from Entertainment Earth. I think they had a restock, and I was like, oh, I got to get that.
Yeah. I actually had two of those because I might have even had more than two of those because I ordered it from Target, and then I think I saw they were in stock, so I went and picked up one, and then got my order in right away. So I was like, oh, okay. I opened one, and I was like, I hate this figure. So I returned one to Target, and then I sold the other one for retail. And like, it wasn't that long after that it was like $80. I was like, dang it, what have I done? But I was just like,
Yeah.
I got to get this thing out of my hands. I didn't like him.
I mean, you never know. Like anymore,
Right.
like you don't know what figure is going to be one popular and one that's going to be like Wolverine. I get, but I didn't
Hmm.
expect it to be that like popular and
Right.
sell out. Like Rogue, I understood because I figured that would because all of her stuff sells out. She's like
Hmm.
literally the hardest, and then they had to reissue her to get for people to quit complaining, and they
Yeah.
still complained when it sold out, and it had to be a Target exclusive. So
Yeah.
that makes it even worse.
Yeah. I think the only ones from the X-Men 97 that I got and kept was Magneto and um, Nightcrawler, and there was somebody else, somebody from the first wave. I don't. Oh, Gambit. Pretty sure I kept him. So, and
Yeah,
I would take a Gambit in
I
the white suit. I would love that. I don't think they would ever do that. That's pretty deep cut, but for me, that would be a
hey,
day one buy.
you never know. You never know. They tend to do that. This
Yeah.
random things you would never expect.
Hmm.
So I was going to ask you one more question. Then I'm gonna put up these questions from Ghost Tab. So with Marvel Legends, do you feel like they need to do something different now, like a chase variant of a figure that McFarlane has kind of like not going to have their license, but Mattel will? Do you feel like they need to do something to spice up their lines now?
I mean, like I said, I can get behind that idea just to have something to hunt down, but I don't think they need to. Um, I mean, I think like they're almost already doing that with like how hard it is to get some of the even regular characters, kind of like we said, Power Princesses, so hard to find now. So even without doing it, they've kind of done it. Um, and I don't think that would really, I don't think there's anything that's going to ever make all the fans all that happy. But I think doing a chase variant would probably just make more enemies than friends, which I'm surprised that, like, I mean, Maximum Spider Man sold out, so people obviously were okay with it. But, like, I mean, I made 4 or 5 videos talking about Maximum stuff, and they all did well because people were, it was the hot topic of the town. But I was surprised with how much people were kind of like so angry about it. Like, I mean, I'm not going to spend
Right,
$50 because $50 is a lot, but people were passionate about that. So, but at the same time, it's like everybody's wanting more deco, more accessories. So they said, okay, here's your paint and your accessories. It's just going to cost you a little bit more. And people were like, how dare you? So I think if you put out a chase variant or something like that, people would be even more upset. So I think they're doing a good job. I don't think. Like I really don't have. Do I have any complaints about Marvel Legends right now? I'm sure if I thought long and hard enough, I could probably come up with something. But I think they're doing an amazing job. Like they've also improved a lot in the last few years.
Oh yeah,
Because when they were putting out like the Falcon build to figure wings, that was kind of like, oh, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be collecting Marvel Legends. Like this isn't so cool. But then
right.
like I think the thing that like switched for me was when they started doing the mindless one build a figure wave. I was like, this wave is amazing. Like I don't necessarily want all these characters, but the value is there. Like these boxes are filled with accessories. Like I'm super happy with what they're doing. All the characters look cool. They're good articulation and everything. So I think keeping on that path, like they're still putting out new things. Like we just got a new Punisher body. I'm excited to see what else comes with
Yes,
that. A new Spider-Man body. We've still got, I think, a lot of characters that can use the Renew Your Vows body mold. With lots of new female figure. Like we've got the Black Widow, we've got She-Hulk, we've got Power Princess. All those new kind of things that they're going to keep using. So I think Marvel Legends maybe not on top of their game as far as like the profits they're making off of it, but with the stuff that they're putting out, I think it's the best they've ever done. I say this is the golden age of Marvel Legends.
I'm not going to disagree because I think you're right. I think it's taken them what 4 years to get to this point to where
Mm-hmm.
they've made really good body molds. They're getting away from pinless. I mean, they are using it here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, they have gotten a lot better. Articulation's better. The paint's gotten better. Can the paint deco get better? I believe it can, and I know that was one biggest complaint and everyone bitching about Max and Spider-Man that he should have raised webs. I'm like I don't really care if they had raised
I mean,
webs. Like it doesn't matter.
yeah, I think you're going to see less deco for sure going forward. Like even like I still think they're on a great trajectory, but I think that they're kind of being put in this position of they're either coming to a point where they got to raise the prices or bring the value down because with all the tariffs and everything happening and prices going to be going up, I would I personally would say like give me less paint, it's fine. Like it doesn't have to have like the black wash on it. I would rather just have like a more basic figure versus having to go up to like a $30 basic price tag.
Right.
Like if they went up to $30, I'd probably be like, oh, you guys are losing me. Like I'd be selective, but I'd be more selective. I'm not going to say I'm out of the hobby, but I'm going to start looking more at Mythic Legions that are lowering their prices. At least for now, they may have to also pivot, but I think I'm curious to see what happens moving forward with them and how they're going to handle price increases.
Yeah, because that's kind of like the same thing I was thinking. Because I even said like when they got to 24.99, I was like, okay, this is where I'm kind of like at the point where I'm like, okay, now I got to really be picky and
Mm-hmm.
choosy. But I'm also still collecting the full waves. But like I said earlier, like I'm not buying them all at the same time. Like I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
pick out that one figure and that line that I know. I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling it's going to be hard to find, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to pay triple the price later. So that's the first one I'm going to go after, and then everything else I'm just going to have to get through like online sales or if I can find them cheap. Like that's how you that like you and I basically do the same thing when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to those. It's just getting them when you as cheap as you can get them without having to pay the 24.99 or higher price
Mm-hmm.
because eventually Amazon's going to put them on sale during Black Friday or whatever
Yeah.
for dirt cheap.
Yep.
So my fear is they go to $30. I might just be completely out and just pick up
Mm-hmm.
one or two every once in a while, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now not like what other line am I gonna want to go to? There's not really anything else I collect besides GI Joe, and I was literally about to get out of that until today. I was like, dang it, dang you.
Their stuff is looking good. I've never collected GI Joe, but it looks fun.
It's really fun. They have a lot of accessories.
Mm-hmm.
Paint apps are great. I mean, that GI Joe line is definitely killing it, and I feel like the Marvel Legends team started seeing how well they were doing. So like, oh shit, we got to up our ante here, and
Yeah.
you can tell like how much quality they've put into the Marvel Legends line now. Is it to
Mm-hmm.
the tier of GI Joe? No. I just want Marvel Legends to come with more accessories and not reuse stuff that they've done for the past 10 years,
Right.
like the flame effects and stuff. Like it's like, hey, come up with something
Yeah.
new. GI Joe's been doing it now. Like you can do something different. I mean, that's really my only gripe would be just more accessories, more heads, or do what McFarlane was doing. Like the faceplate thing would even be
Mm-hmm.
better than what they're doing now.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that Hasbro will go that route, the faceplate route.
That would be interesting. Because I mean, I guess they did start doing like the hair swaps with
Yeah,
Odin, right? So they're testing things, I guess.
yeah. And I know GI Joe has done the hair. Well, not a hair swap, but shipwreck. You can take off the hair and put his hat on. So they've already done that. I was like, okay. So they're like you said, they're testing out things, see if it's going to work or not, and I'm hoping it goes that way.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes more sense to have instead of making a whole new head sculpt, just do
Right.
faceplates.
Yeah.
It's just
That's
easier.
yeah. I could see where it would work and sometimes where it would be harder. But yeah, I think because I remember like one of the Toy Biz Iron Mans had like the removable like faceplate,
Hmm.
and like over time, like it doesn't really want to stay in there anymore. But it was still really fun as a kid to be like, taking off Iron Man's faceplate and having the Tony Stark underneath it. So I would be curious to see, like, especially with something like that, if they could, because I could see like if it was just like a Nick Fury and like I've got to like peel off his face and then put on a different face, and you're gonna have that seam on the side of his head for sure. But like with like I said, swapping a faceplate on and off of Iron Man might be more realistic, or maybe that's like the next thing they would try.
Yeah, because they did it with Giant Man. They did it with
Yep.
that faceplate. Like they have the technology to do it. It's just doing it right. And if they could do it where it was like more of a magnet instead of doing it like
Mm,
a plug and play, like because over time, like you said, the plastic's going to get
right.
loose. If they could use a magnetic system, I think that would be better. But yes, with that, there's a price increase with doing that.
Right.
So that's where we hit that $30, I think. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
do I really want it that bad? Maybe not. But I
Right.
just I see can see that happening in the future, and I think that'd be good because what's the biggest thing that we always want? We always want more head sculpts.
Yeah.
There's never enough. Like I want a Captain America head sculpt, like the one I have on him right now. I want one without I guess a cowl on. I want one with a happy face or a stern face. Like I want all these
Mm-hmm.
different ones. With a faceplate with Captain America, you could easily do that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So anyway,
I'd
that's
be
just
interested
my
to see
take.
what they're able to do. I I don't know how long it'll take, but they keep coming up with new things to try. So I'm always interested to see what the next switch is.
Well, what they need to do, they just need to hire you and I to give them crazy ideas.
There you go. I would love that.
Me too. Like, can you do this? They're like, we've never done that. Well, let's try it.
Right. I mean, talking to Todd, that seems like how he operates. He's like, I want
Right.
this out of my action figures, and they're like, that's not how things work. He's like, well, it's how they're gonna work. I'm like, I
Yep.
like that.
Hey, you gotta try it once. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna do this one. Does Dakota collect statues, comics, or keeping it to just action figures?
Statues, no. I had like a couple of McFarlane ones, but they were they were cool. I liked them, but it was just kind of like they were taking up space, and then storing them took up more space than figures. So I was like, all right, I don't need them that bad. So I let those go. Maybe in the future I would get more statues, but I like my action figures too much, and I'd rather have the space for them. Maybe like some like statement piece or like if I was like characters I really like you've got some Funko Pops back there of like Crow, and I know Crow's your favorite, so like I've got like a Funko Pop of Ironheart. Ironheart's one of my favorites. So like some things like that, like I don't think Funkos are necessarily statues, but that'd be kind of the direction I would go, is like maybe character specific. Um, Comics, I still collect some comics, but I've toned that down quite a bit and switched mostly to digital, just because like I was like we were packing up to move from our apartment when we were getting the bus ready, and I think I had, I don't even know, 20 boxes of comics, and I'm like, okay, like
Dang.
I have I've got 20 boxes of comics right now. I'm this old. If I keep reading comics just at the pace I'm reading now, which isn't crazy or anything, like I was barely getting weekly books, but like, picking up volumes here and there or whatever, compendiums. Like if I keep getting these physical books, like I'm gonna have a spare bedroom full of boxes of comics that there's some books that I'll go back and reread or I'll lend out, but like not that many of them. So I was like, okay, I need to like sell off a few of these boxes and just go digital. And like if it's something I really like right now is the last Halloween, like Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale type of long
Mm-hmm.
Halloween continuation. Like that's my number one favorite comic like volume of all time is Long Halloween. So I was like, I'm gonna get those, and like I'm getting cover A and cover B, and that's like maybe one of the only like physical books that I'm probably gonna collect this year. Maybe if there's like some like when Marvel DC does their crossover two one
Mm-hmm.
shots, I'll probably pick those up just because that's like a big event and it's only two
Right.
books. But like as far as like getting physical books, I've tried to like tone that down to like just getting volumes, like no more single issues. Because I still want to read like Spawn stuff. Like I get the Spawn compendiums. I'll get like Sam and Twitch volumes as those come out. I want to read like Lilo and Stitch and Thundercats. So I'm still getting physical books, but I've tried to switch like way over to digital. Like getting the Marvel app has been awesome. Like I've read way more comics having that. And then there's also I never heard of it, and I don't think many people have, but it's called humblebundle.com that you
Huh.
can get like sometimes it's just random stuff they put up there. But like when I was looking one time, they had all of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics from IDW, and it was like $30 for I don't even know how many issues of comics, but it's like the Ultimate Collections, which have like 15 or 20 volumes or issues in them. But there was like 20 volumes of that, so it's whatever that math works out to be, tons of um, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics for $30. So it's like that can get behind this style of reading
Yeah,
because
that's
one of those volumes would be like 15, $20 by itself.
yeah,
So
that's cheap.
yeah, that's been more of the route I've been going with that. And then that way I have, because my action figures are taking up a lot of my like space and like even the storing space. Because I usually will like when I have somewhere to display, I'll display like my scenes and then swap figures out for other figures and kind of display that way. So there's always something in storage and then stuff on display and rotating. But yeah, definitely more action figures is my collection. A little bit of comics, but again, trying to keep that mostly digital so that I don't take up the space.
Makes sense. Next question is: any go-to figure you like to mess around with traveling, or do you like to rotate in the shelf?
So like in the bus, like I tried to pick. So I've got like a long container of comics that we have under the couch, and then I've got like a smaller bin of kind of my newer stuff that I want to like, you know, play around with before it goes into like I say it's storage, but it's I only have one bin in the bus. Um, but right now it's mainly Mythic Legions because I just got in the Necronominous wave. I haven't even fully opened up those figures yet. Um, but number one figure right now is the Terpiculi for Mythic Legions. It's kind of like a skeleton monster, but it comes with like some extra parts. You can I've got three of them, and they're all three different looking. Um, so that one's really fun because there's so many different things I can do with him. Um, but yeah, Mythic Legions is at the top of my most playable right now.
Oh, favorite Zack Snyder movie? Asking for a friend. Okay.
Um, I guess I would have to have like a list of movies Zack Snyder made. Like I know he did all the DC stuff. If we're just like in that category, I don't even know if I can pick a favorite. I really didn't like most of those DC movies. I maybe go Man of Steel, I guess, but they were all. I feel like all those movies capped at like a C plus.
Yeah, I took my son to see Man of Steel, and was not expecting him to kill Zod. I was all, oh wow, this is not the Superman I remember.
Right.
And I don't know if that was it wasn't his first superhero movie. His first I took him to see I think it was Iron Man 3 because I went
Mm,
with a bunch of friends at a midnight showing and he was really young and I was like, "You sure you want to see this? Because we're gonna be up late." And he's like, "Yep." He stayed up through the whole movie, and that ever since he saw that, that was his like favorite character,
mm,
comic book character. Because I always was like, as they would say, force feeding him Spider Man because that's my favorite
yeah.
character. But I was like, yeah, he's a kid. He's gonna find his way of who he likes. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna be like my parents and force feed things onto him or my daughter except for when it comes to music. I'm like, you have to listen to Blink 182, and they're like, we're not listening to them,
That's funny.
Dad. So yeah, his thing is Iron Man. So as he's gotten older, he's driving age now, 16. Now he's into anime. I know nothing about manga and
Yeah.
anime. He's into Gundam. Know nothing about that. I'm like, I
Gundam
remember
looks cool.
Gundam.
I
Yeah,
see those
I
figures.
remember
Those figures are
Gundam.
tempting. I'd
They're really
pick up a few
cool.
of those.
Yeah, and I told him I was like, yeah, Gundam has been around in Dragon Ball since I was a kid. Like
Hmm.
it wasn't called Dragon Ball Z, it was just called Dragon Ball. Gundam has been around for a long, long time. While Voltron was technically considered Gundam back in the day. So I
Hmm.
was like, there's that. But he's into like the model kits, and I'm just like, this is
Hmm.
way beyond me.
Yeah.
And he'll literally buy one and have it done on the same day. And I'm like, yeah, me as a kid your age would have not had that done the same day. It would have taken me like days because I would get so
Yeah.
frustrated at that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
I've
just
never done model
interesting.
kits. They scare me.
Yeah, I did one, a Snake Eyes one, and I literally I was like, I hate this thing. So frustrating.
Because
And
like,
he
can
was
you
like, Do you want
pose
me
it
to do?
afterwards and stuff, or is it
Yeah,
just like
it's like
a
an
stick?
action figure. Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, I can't remember what I did. I think I left or something, had to do something to come back and he had it like all built for me. And I'm like, what the heck? And he's
I've
like, yeah,
seen
it
yeah,
wasn't that
because
hard.
yeah, there's characters that I've seen model kits of. Because like I used to like when I was younger, like probably my first like I guess my first collection was like Digimon, like little
Hmm.
PVC Digimon. So like I've seen some like model kits of those kind of characters, and like those look really cool. But it's like I don't want to have to put it together. Like I hate puzzles, so I don't think I would like that very much. I want my figure to come out of the box ready for me to play with.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're like, I don't want to have to build it to play with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that Snake Eyes, and he comes with like guns and knives and swords, and they just fall over the place. And I literally don't even know what to do with them. That Snake Eyes, because everything just plugs onto them, and it just kept
Mm-hmm.
falling off. I'm all, yeah, I don't like this. I can't.
Yeah,
Nope, never again.
understandable.
I'm all, it took me like an hour just to do like a leg, and I was just like, this is so stupid. And like I said, I come back and he had the whole thing built in probably like less than a half hour.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
impressive.
I'm like, I usually have a lot of patience, but I'm just like, I don't have patience for this for some weird reason. I
Mm-hmm.
could sit and do a puzzle, but that,
Mm-hmm.
nope. Too many small pieces, big hands and big fingers don't work with
Sure.
little tiny things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, sucks. Well, I think that was all the questions that he had. And I'm going to give you the floor to plug away anything and everything you want to plug before we go.
So yeah, you can check me and Jordan out on Strong Collectors. We've actually got Strong Collectors, the main channel, talking mostly action figures, and then Strong Collector Comics is a little bit more comic book talks, talking movies, different things like that. If you want to follow me and my bus that I've been talking about, that's Midwest Nice Nomads. We've got a bus channel. Mostly my wife is making shorts. We've got a few long form stuff out there so you can see the full tour of everything that we've got built that we're living in, traveling the country. If there's places you think I should stop as we're traveling, let me know. I'd love to see some new places. I'll come out and visit you in California whenever we get out there.
That'd be
Maybe
cool.
might be this next winter time ish. Maybe it'll be a year from now. We'll see kind of how if I get a remote job. If anybody out there has a remote job, I could really use a remote job right now. Um, and otherwise, I also am a personal trainer. I've got a fitness channel. I don't really do much on the fitness channel, but you can see some of my old stuff, free workouts, Fit You Coaching. I think that's all my YouTube channels probably. So
So you have as many YouTube channels as I do. Jeez.
yeah, It's fun. I like making the content. Like it's kind of hard because like I really love doing strong collectors. That's the easiest thing for me to
Yeah,
do because I love talking toys and stuff. But then yeah, I think a lot of people want to see, like they're always asking me like the solar panels, like different things about our bus. I don't know anything about it. My wife built everything. I didn't do any of it. It was all
that's
her.
awesome.
Um, so whenever people want to know that, I'm like, you got to go watch that channel because I can't really give you many answers to it.
She's the one to ask, not me.
Right, exactly. Somebody was just out in the driveway today. They're like, "Oh, I see you got solar panels up there. What's the wattage and batteries?" And I was like, I know there's 8 solar panels up there, but that's all I know. I don't know what the wattage is, amperage, nothing."
You have to ask my wife. She built it.
Yep, 100%. I painted some of the things and helped hold things in place for her when she was cutting and screwing. So that was it's she's impressive.
That is pretty impressive. You're like, I'm supporting her doing this while she was supporting me doing this. See, that's
Yep.
how it should be. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, that is it. I appreciate you being here tonight. I know it was a little rough at first because I've never used this new streaming platform. So I thank you for your help on that.
You're all
And
good.
yeah, I'm sure I'll be in your comments again on a live stream soon. And if you guys didn't know, the Strong Collectors do have a new video out, I believe today. It was
Yep.
today.
Yep.
It's about Stan Lee. So
Yeah.
definitely
New
watch that.
Kickstarter documentary. Some controversy
Yep.
there.
Lots of controversy. So go check that out. Follow Dakota, follow Jordan, the Strong Collectors. Watch them on YouTube. Great content by both of them. They're fun to watch. And I definitely love the outtakes because that's freaking hilarious. Always.
Thank
Always.
you.
So good. So that is it for tonight's T3 Connects with. We'll have another episode in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to WonderCon, so there'll be a lot of content on my YouTube channel over that weekend. And I'm probably going to have no voice, so who knows how that ends up. Hopefully, I don't come home sick because the last time I came home, super tired, jet lagged, and it took me like a week and a half to come back to normal. So look out for that. And we'll see you guys next time. And that is it tonight. Peace. It's not that bad, I guess. Just don't understand. I don't know. I'm sure you've done this before, so I know that you can edit in here. I know you can do that in StreamYard. I never did it in StreamYard. So,
No, yeah, I always export to DaVinci and then edit in DaVinci.
yeah, I just trying to think, how did I ever do it? I don't think I ever, yeah, my live streams, I never edited. I just left them the way it